Hey everyone, good morning and welcome to the Crushing Cash Game series, episode 9. Going to be playing some 5-10 no limit today, just like my last 3 episodes or so. Hope everyone had a good weekend, a good Cinco de Mayo. We're fully recovered, ready to make some money. I can't really remember this session, so expect me to have many criticisms for my own play. Pretty good hand in the top right. Gonna be 3-betting pretty much any position that raises. As always, please subscribe to my channel. I very much appreciate it. I love making these videos. I hope I do a good job. I hope I'm easy to understand. I am able to explain my thought processes clearly. I know that sometimes it's pretty tough in a short video. There's just not enough time to explain everything that I'm doing, and I get distracted by multiple hands happening at the same time. So please forgive me. Any questions, you can send me an email at brad@enhanceYourEdge.com or leave me a comment in the video section, and I'll do my best to answer it. Ace sent off in the big blind is not a good enough hand to battle with second position open. It appears as if the 6th seat at the bottom right is kind of a weak player. Limping under the gun is not typically viewed as a winning play. We could have 4-bet at the top right. The ace-8 of clubs opted against it. Gonna be c-betting the ace-king. He's got a lot of one-pair type hands in his range. Probably gonna go nuts. Looks at the top right. The 1 seat had the same idea we did and cold 4-bet it. I don't think that the 6th seat is super strong here. The big problem that I have is by check raising, what exactly are we repping? The guy is more than likely a fish, and that's just a spot where historically I've burned money by trying to attack a capped range and just watching a bad player call despite everything. Looks like at the top right table the flop went check check on ace king queen, which is kind of interesting. Now the 5 seat is tanking. One would think that the 5 seat has jacks or 10s. You can't really have much of a draw. I mean, with such little information on the 5 seat though, maybe. I mean, I have no idea what he could have. Pretty unfortunate at the bottom right. Our fish got his jacks cracked by top set. The 1 seat's in a very interesting spot here. Such a tiny bet. I don't think he would have bet so small with jacks. So I don't really think he has jacks. I don't think the flop goes. I mean, maybe he has a set of queens or a set of kings and trying to get paid off by ace X. It's just a really precarious spot. The 4 seat at the top right obviously disagrees with how that hand was played. Min open, queen 9 suited on the button. Very, very normal. Three betting a somewhat aggressive player with ace deuce of hearts at the top left. That's okay. We haven't been super duper out of line. We have some repability. I think that the 5 seed is somewhat fishy, and it appears as if he's going to be playing fit or fold after the flop. So just keep that in the back of our minds as the session goes on, that the 5 seed at the top left is, when he puts pressure on us, when he goes nuts, he's more than likely got a hand. When he flopped no equity just then with whatever he had, he just snap folded. No thought of going crazy. I think that's makes it somewhat important when you're making your decisions to actually just take a couple of seconds. Even if you've automatically made your decision, just take a couple of seconds to think about it. You don't lose much by taking a little time. It's very important. It's a problem that I see. It's a mistake that I see live players make. They act too quickly when there's just no reason to act super quick. And anybody that knows me from live play probably thinks that's kind of funny, because I tend to act on my hands very much quicker than most people. But when it's an important decision for stacks, it's an important decision. I mean, how many important decisions do you have in a session? A 5-hour live session with 150 hands, just a couple that are going to make or break your entire session. So you really owe it to yourself to take the time to think about it and make the best decision you can. Some people let the pressures of everybody waiting on them or whatever affect their decision, and you know what? Screw it. It doesn't matter. Not exactly sure how I got on that tangent, but as far as betting patterns and timing tells and stuff like that, in the internet version of poker, when people make a snap decision, then what it means to me is they thought of it as a no-brainer. When I get snap 3-bet, I think that my opponent's range is going to be stronger than a 5-second delay in 3-bet. Simply because if you look at when you 3-bet people with aces and kings and ace king and queens, like, you don't really think about it. You just do it. You react because it's obvious what you should be doing. If you can just, take that away from this video and apply it to other people, I think that's worth a lot of money in your poker career. Looks like I used this time to go for a bathroom break. Queen 7-0, kind of light open on the button. We've been playing relatively snug, but two aggressive players in the blinds probably shouldn't be messing with them that light. And if so, I need to be balanced with some 4-bets. I can't just let them 3-bet me with impunity. Could have definitely 4-bet the ace-8 off, or ace-4 off there on the button. We have a blocker. People tend not to 4-bet enough, in my opinion, at this stake. So we can get away with it. Although I guess we have We did 3-bet queens on our very first hand, so maybe I got scared that my 3-bet was a little high, but over 9 hands, I mean, anything could happen. Five, 6 off on the button. A little loose, but whatever. Basically, our button open range, and really depends on our opponents in the blinds, how they're defending us, how they play post flop. A guy that plays fit or fold post, you can pretty much raise him with any two. And if he just doesn't flop any equity or anything, which he won't most of the time, then you're going to win the pot. The only thing that you can't do versus somebody like that is when they give you resistance to keep pounding away at them. Just chink away, chink away, chink away. And when you do get into a spot where they show resistance and we have a value hand, then they're going to pay us off. It's pretty simple. Ace queen suited, obvious open. I don't love 3-betting from the blinds, my ace X's, a ton, because if we do get flatted and somebody messes with us in position, which is pretty likely, then we just have no idea how to proceed on an 8-high flop, on an ace-high flop. Even when we flop equity, we don't know what to do. They're kind of in the driver's seat. It's really difficult to proceed. Look to be having some mousehole problems. At the top right. Bottom right, no reason to 3-bet deuces on the button. I think it's a good hand to have in position. Versus a half-size pot bet on this board. We very likely have the best hand. But when we flat, our flatting range appears to be, 6X's, 4X's, pocket pairs, sometimes kings. We give him a lot of incentive to go ahead and keep bluffing. So I like just grabbing the pot when I have the chance. So many players are used to being floated that their frequency of turn bet firing is very high. So we don't really, in order to get the pot cheaply, we need to be willing to put in the third bet. The king 3, I actually do remember that hand because I thought we had king jack suited on the button. Instead, we had king jack suited at the top right, so that was pretty annoying. Burning of $30. Gutter ball with backdoor flush draw. Under most circumstances, a good hand. Against this short stack guy, there's not much room for anything. We just have to give up. Probably going to be tough playing the cutoff and the button at the top left table. Just the players on my left seem aggressive. Seem like they're gonna battle us, so we're gonna have to open it up against those guys. We can't just just roll over to their 3-bets. We got to start 4-betting them. We got to start combating them if we decide to open. Didn't really see what happened at the bottom right, but that's a pretty big pot pre-flop. I assume a 4-bet by the 2-seat. Yeah. And in that spot with aces, with, you know, a 70% pot size bet on the turn after a 4-bet pre-flop, I guess they could hope to get called by worse. Kings, queens, jacks. You do have to be a little concerned after the flat on the flop that jacks and tens might fold. Maybe jacks and tens fold with some frequency. Kings and queens just get it in pre, and you're left with a lot of set type hands. Three betting queen 10. If we get a call on that board, we're probably going to go nuts. We're going to bet the turn, and we're going to make a substantial bet on the river. Simply because their range is capped at ace jack, ace queen type hands. We're uncapped. We can rep a lot. Aces on the button. Not going to re-raise. We get a cold deck that goes our way and end up busting 2 players. But no sense in re-isolating. Like, I think thinking for 4 or 5 seconds and flatting is perfectly acceptable. We still have jacks and tens in our range. We still have ace queen suited, maybe ace king off. I don't know. Our range is much wider when we flat than when we re-isolate. We want to give the 6 seat any extra reason he needs to pile it in. It's like in scenarios where you're bluffing, something that people don't always think about that I think is super important is when you have a marginal hand and your opponent can be bluffing or he can have the nuts, then you want him to put the last bet in the pot. Because if you're putting the last bet in the pot, it's hard to get any action from bluffs. So you want to encourage them to put the last bet into the pot. The dreaded accidental click of tiling tables. Who in the history of online poker has played poker with the what is it, Cascade? The Cascade view where all the tables are on top of each other. I mean, does anybody play poker like that? I've been playing online poker for like 8 or 9 years, and I've never seen it in any video. I've never seen any of my friends play like that. And every time you accidentally hit the button, it is a disaster. But on every single poker site that I've ever played on, that has been an option. Whereas on Bovada, you can't auto top off. which is super duper annoying. Like, I wish that whenever I got below a full buy-in, it would just top right back up. But instead, I have to manually reload it every time. But cascading tables, we got that for days. Kind of an annoying spot at the top left with the ace jack off because of how often we're being messed with by the players on our left. It's a good hand. It's a good hand for the situation. We obviously have to raise with it. But it's also annoying dealing with the players behind us. Obvious four-way, this is not a flop, a board that we want to mess with. Cold 4-bet with the ace tray off. We have a blocker. I really like the spot of button and small blind. Button stealing, small blind 3-betting. Players do that. That's the highest frequency in which both players are apt to be at the bottom of their range or have weak hands that can't withhold a cold 4-bet. So I really like the spot. I opt to raise the small versus big at the bottom right hand table because it's opponent based. The 5-seat hasn't 3-bet at all yet, over 30 hands, barely raising pre-flop. I can't expect a pre-flop raise, not even really calling very much pre, so should be raising with almost my entire range, small versus big, just to exploit him. Good flop for the 8s, but this is not a spot that we can continue on. It's just way too dangerous. We have no information about the 1-seat. Against somebody who's out of control and not folding and super duper aggressive, we can play 8s like the best hand. We can call and let them bluff. Against a complete unknown, we're just going to be lighting money on fire by trying to battle them with 2 black 8s on a 7-5 trade diamond board. Bottom right, we got donked into, we raised. Now we picked up equity after another donk. And we river a pair of 9s. I specifically remember this hand because, yeah, my initial thought was to ship it. That's a really terrible card for his 10s. That's the worst card in the deck. Very hard for him to just call off his last 400 with 1 pair. The problem the reason that I ended up just calling was because I was getting great pot odds at that point. There are hands that we beat because we rivered a pair of 9s. That's the reason why I felt like we did have some showdown equity with the pair of 9s. I think in hindsight, actually, my first, I slid the slider over to all in. That was my first initial reaction, was to just jam it in his face on that terrible river card. So kind of annoyed with myself that I didn't just go with my read. Very annoying 3-bet sizing here. I feel pretty obligated to peel even with 8-4 suited because he had not 3-bet one time. He's very likely at the top of his range. He's given us such a good price for a stack. I mean, if the flop is 4-4-6 there, then he's probably just going to ship in 700. So I'm perfectly fine with that peel, knowing that he probably had a big hand or had a hand that he's willing to go broke with. Not 3-betting ace queen here versus an aggressive opener. Perfectly okay with that. Take a dominating hand in position, induce squeezes from the blinds, and then call with a hand that probably has the squeezes dominated. This is how we increase our win rate and make money. I have no idea what I'm thinking at the top left. When I did this, I thought, what are you doing? Like, how are you betting a straight for value on that board? Like, expecting to get called by ace high. Even if he had a straight draw, he rivered, you know, queens full of nines. Like, that was just a awful, awful, awful river bet. I hated that when I did it. I hate it even more now because I have to show people. And while I'm thinking about it, if you haven't taken the time to subscribe to my channel, please do so. I enjoy making the material. I hope to make a lot more for you guys. I take a lot of pride in doing the best that I can. I'm open to feedback, open to criticism. Just let me know what you need, and I'll do my best to answer your questions, to provide any information. I know there was one guy who asked me if limp raising ever actually worked because in the last video that I made, we just got smashed by limp raising in the small blind versus the big blind. But in my other videos, it worked very well. And I can tell you from experience that it does work very well. So if I can find an instance in future videos, because it doesn't appear as if I'm going to limp raise any this video, hopefully I can timestamp it and show the guy, hey man, this works. And it's not even that we're getting to, I can't definitively say whether or not limp raising creates a profitable spot for the small blind versus the big blind, but I think it minimizes the damage. I think typically when we're in the small blind versus a big blind, we're supposed to lose money in that spot. It's a negative spot for us. Our opponent has position. He has position. He can do a lot of things. Even ace jack, with ace jack from the small blind raising against the big blind, I feel very vulnerable if the big blind's a thinking, competent, strong player. He's going to put us in a lot of weird spots, a lot of tough decisions later on. He's going to get to see what we do on every single street before we get to see what he does and use that information against us. By limp raising, we use the big blind's tendencies of being aggressive, exploiting his position against him. The hope is that he's going to open his big blind lighter pre-flop than normal, and then not know how to react to a limp raise. Not be able to play versus a limp raise as perfect as he can play versus a standard raise from the small blind to the big blind. Three betting ace-10 off versus a button raise. That's fine. Going in a check call with the queens. On king 9 deuce rainbow, we block a lot of the gut shots. We block king queen. The value hands he could have in his range here are like nines, deuces, ace, king type hands that he can just triple with. Our range is capped at ace, king. So he could try to exploit us with a river bet. I think betting the flop in turn and not betting the river is a pretty clear mistake. He needs to be betting the river as well if he decides to bet the flop in turn, because I don't think he's getting tons of folds. And as it turns out, he picked up some equity on the turn. He picked up a flush draw. So I guess we were deep enough that he didn't mind getting raised. He would still be able to peel with his flush draw versus a super strong range. It would be kind of concealed because it was backdoor, and he called a 3-bet with ace-5 suited. So we can excuse his bet. 3-betting queen-5 suited on the button. That's fine. I think my sizing could have been less. Instead of potting, I could have made it 80. This is a board we're going to attack in position. I say that, and then we just check it right back. But I think we have a lot more repability by checking back and then betting the turn. That's the plan. With a lot of our ace-X's, that's exactly what we're going to do. And he's got to assume that with a lot of our bluffs, we're going to be betting the flop. So in this way, we balance our check back range with ace-X's. Betting 290 here. I polarized myself. I would bet ace king and ace queen for sure. That amount. I would bet a set of nines, a set of trays. Ace jack off. Ace jack off. I mean, it just depends on how often he thinks I'm checking back my air on the flop, and then betting the turn to make it appear as if I have an ace, versus how often I actually did flop a hand with equity. Because I'm not going to be betting kings, queens, jacks, tens, any of those type hands with that sizing on the river. Essentially, I'm pretty polarized to ace, king, ace, queen. I don't really like the call pre-flop, honestly, out of position with ace jack off. It's just really hard to proceed, really hard to know what to do. And then it's in a spot like that where you do flop ace high, you very well may be in a negative spot on the river against my range. So in a best case scenario, you're in a rough spot on the river. Well, 45 seconds left in this video. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me. I hope you enjoyed it like always. Have a good weekend. Direct any comments to the comment box. Please subscribe to my channel. Good luck at the tables. And I don't think anything interesting is going to happen in the last 13 seconds. Take care, guys. I enjoyed it.